Hello, ladies and gentlemen, or people who are listening at all. And so I know this looks like it's going to be negative, and I don't know how else to say this in a positive light. Um, but I was really going over some of the things that I've been witnessing in Los Angeles. I've been witnessing um, a lot of black males who are homeless. And it's really sad because what makes the whole thing sad is that, for one, it's you see a lot of black males that are homeless, and it some of this I'm thinking some of this has to do with substance abuse. Some of it has to do with racism, and I'm full aware of that. And substance abuse, as in alcohol or drugs, um, and then some of it has to do with people that were possibly, maybe they have mental illness and they never got any therapy or help, or they don't take medication regular, or maybe they have some issues with their health care. They don't have insurance, and so they don't have the proper insurance to cover the medications that they need. I'm assuming this could be possibly some of the reasons. However, there are some people that maybe they had a good life at one point and they lost everything. They might have lost their job, they lost their families. It could have been because of something that happened in the family. But what I've noticed is there's some angry homeless black men out there. And what I think is really sad is that they tend to vent at women or black women, and I'm gathering that some of those men might have had relationships and they failed at those relationships. And when they fail at the relationships, they vent at people that people don't even know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know your life. They're not in your life. You're not in theirs. And so, what's the point of venting at people you don't know that didn't do anything to you? They don't know you. They don't know that you had a substance problem or that you had a relationship, it didn't work out. Whatever happened between you and that other individual, that was between you and that other individual, or whatever those problems were. People that are strangers that are trying to go grocery shop, or they're trying to live their lives, they're not doing anything to you, simply because they don't reach in their pocket or they don't reach in their purse and give you money, doesn't mean that you can start screaming and yelling and cussing them out and threatening them because they don't give you any money. And so I'm saying this because I don't know if anybody that lives in the LA area have encountered this, but some of these people that are homeless are dangerous and they're angry. And I've seen a lot of black males that are homeless. Now, every homeless person doesn't behave this way, but I have seen some that when you walk into the grocery store and you walk out, they ask you for something. If you're afraid, you don't want to, you're on your way, you're rushing out, they get mad, they start to cuss you out. Some of them go so far as to follow you to your car as if they're going to physically attack you. And so the thing that's baffling is you'll have security guards around in places and they're even afraid to even deal with the people that are loitering around the stores. And so the homeless population is growing in LA. There's no secret about that. And I'm not saying that you only see black males, but there's a lot of black males that are homeless. I'm noticing. And there's some that are really, really angry. And we know it's because, nobody, in their right mind wants to be in a situation where they're out in the street and they don't have anything and no resources, because that's a natural human thing to need resources, just the basics, shelter, food, water, cleanliness, and to be able to have some type of health care. You know, generally you're going to be angry if you're without things that help you to survive and thrive in life. But to take your anger out on innocent people who you don't know what they're going through, just because they're not, to you, they don't appear to be homeless, they could be one step away from your position. And so it's wrong of people, um, those that can understand, and you don't have any mental issues and can't figure it out. Those that can understand that if you look at the news, there's a government shutdown. Some people were furloughed or they are not getting paid. They're being asked to go to work and not get paid. Some people are having to go to shelters to get food. They're almost close to the same situation as homeless people. There's a lot of unhappiness that is going on in the world. There's also the LAUSD teacher strike. And then to top that off, some of those teachers are married to people who were government workers that were laid off or they don't have any paycheck coming to them. So to be yelling and screaming at people who are just trying to make it is wrong. We know you have a situation, but trust me, there are other people out there. Just because they're, that car they're driving in, they probably are scrambling around trying to figure out how to pay the note. Just because they're going in the grocery store, they're able to buy food, that might be their last paycheck they're using to buy food for their family. So anyway, I'm going to tell you that yesterday there was an encounter. There was a guy who was standing in front of a grocery store and he was yelling obscenities. He appeared to be homeless and he was yelling obscenities, but I noticed he wouldn't do it towards men. He did it towards females. And for one, I believe he did it towards the females because he felt like they're weaker. They're not going to, be as defensive and fighting, because they're afraid, because he looks like he's out there and, he kept his hands in his pocket like he was going to pull a knife or a gun out or a weapon or whatever. You don't know what's in his pockets because he kept fishing in his pockets. And so as people were going in and out of the stores, he'd always yell something to females. So he'd yell things like, you start talking under his breath. If they didn't reach in their purse or give him any money, and most of them didn't. And I can see why, because they're afraid of him, because he's yelling at people and screaming at them, and they're afraid. And so with situations like that, you just want to call the police and give them the description of these individuals and have them removed. Because I will say this, in LA, the homeless population is growing. And there has been some incidences where some of these homeless people have attacked innocent people who aren't doing anything to them. They're not provoking anything. They're not saying anything. They're going to their car. You're minding your own business, and all of a sudden you're being mugged or attacked or violently, um, you know, harassed by a homeless person. And so usually people, you know, LA and a lot of places have had homelessness for a long time, but the homeless population is growing now. And some of these individuals that are out there have become very violent. And the problem I'm having is even in South LA, you'll see, if you're in the South Los Angeles area or in the downtown area of LA, you'll see homeless encampments, tents, You know, they don't really want to focus on that. They keep talking on the news about how they got this project going and that project going, but I really don't see where any of those people are benefiting from it, because I seem to have seen more and more people that are homeless. And it's sad. I'm not saying this to bash people, because some people's situation is different than others. Everybody doesn't have the same circumstance, and everybody is not violent. And I'm full aware of that. And it isn't only just black males that are out there that are homeless. But I have to be honest to say there's a lot of black males that I've seen that are homeless. And I feel like that's really says something. It's really sad. And so, like I said when I started off, that I feel like there's other culprits that are at work here. Um, to some of these men, I believe, you know, with the age group that I'm seeing of some of the guys, they're a lot older. And I'm assuming that some of these people were here during the crack era. And what I've noticed is I've seen a lot of homeless black people. Now, this extends to just males. So I'm going to fish over here, because I've not only seen homeless black males, but I've also seen homeless black females. And what I've seen with homeless black females and males alike is I believe that these individuals were in LA probably around the time of the crack era. And what ended up happening with some of these individuals, some of these women, like you see here, pictured here, the woman looked like she has a pipe in her, you know, in her mouth. That some of these people are out there on the streets because they just were not able to, you know, shake the drugs. The drugs are what, you know, got a hold of them, and they just were not able to shake those drugs. And so you'll see homeless black females also. And so I don't want to make it seem like it's just males, but, you know, what I've noticed about the males is the anger. You know, how they'll approach you at stores as if they want to hurt you. And so I've seen a lot of this in LA, and it's sad. It's really, really sad, people. And you'll see now, if you want me to extend this, I say this: the people in Los Angeles that are homeless, it looks like this. This is the best description I can give of what I've seen all around the city. It looks like this. And you notice to see a lot of black males, like this picture here. This is in like LA County. You see that? You see the tents and stuff. So I'm not trying to say this to put people down or make an example of individuals. Also, the other thing that I wanted to add to this is I see a lot of people of color that are homeless, usually black and Hispanic, that are homeless. And I see a lot of that. And so it, you know, it's really sad. And I don't know what they claim every time they get on the news. They talk about how they're going to, you know, resolve issues, and they're going to make shelters, or they're going to make some makeshift housing. They're going to do certain things to make things better. And, you know, I don't really see where they're doing that. Have you? Has anybody seen where they're doing anything to change the situations that are happening here in LA? I really haven't seen it. And so I see stuff like this, under the freeways. It says a look at homeless people in Los Angeles facing homelessness in California. An auditor says that the state does a poor job helping homeless people find shelter. And I have to agree. I see a lot of homeless people. And let me tell you what, the reason why I'm saying this is this situation is so far out of control that even homeless people are getting violent. There's some that are getting really violent, and they're around the grocery stores. They're in front. They're at gas stations asking you for money. You get out of your car and somebody comes around the corner and they're in your face. They're that close to you. It's scary because you're afraid that somebody's going to hit you upside the head. They're going to snatch your wallet. And two, a lot of the gas stations, they've been afraid. People won't even use, they used to have a little card slot where you could put your debit card in there and get your gas. People go inside now because they don't even want to do that, because what somebody's been doing is putting those skimmer things on there, and they've been stealing people's card numbers so they can wipe out your account. And so there's a lot of theft. There's a lot of fear, because people are just trying to survive here. The rents are high in LA. And so even people who have a place to stay are really living next to almost nothing, paycheck to paycheck. That's why we have the LAUSD strike. And one of the big issues is about pay. So I'm trying to be serious about this here. This is not to try to bash anybody or put anybody down, because I understand that some people are really having a tough time. There's a lot of anger out there. There's a lot of frustration. But to take it out on innocent people who you don't know what their situation is either. You don't know if they're almost, outdoors. They could be facing eviction. So to be yelling and screaming at women who they could have babies, they're probably just trying to feed their babies. They're coming out of the grocery store. Like, give people a break. Give people a break. The thing here is, it's saying that there are few sites in the world like nighttime in the Skid Row area. And it says that it's a teeming Dickensian dystopia in downtown Los Angeles, where homeless and destitute people have been concentrated for more than a century. So here, men and women sleep in rows, lined up one after the other for block, in makeshift tents or on cardboard mats on the sidewalks. The mad, the afflicted, the disabled, alongside those who are merely down on their luck. Criminals prey on them. Drugs such as heroin and crystal meth are easily available. Sexual assault, physical violence are common, and infectious disease like tuberculosis, hepatitis, and AIDS are constant threats. Skid Row is and long and has been a national disgrace, a grim reminder of man's ability to turn his back on his own fellow man. But these days, it is only the ugly epicenter of the staggering homelessness problem that radiates outward for more than 100 miles throughout Los Angeles County and beyond. There are now more than 57,000 people who lack a fixed, regular, adequate place to sleep on any given night in the county, and fewer than 1 in 10 of them are in Skid Row. And so homelessness burst its traditional borders several years ago, spreading first to gloomy underpasses and dim side streets. And so then the public parks and libraries, reading rooms, and subway platforms. And so these are places where some of the homeless people will sleep, have these tents. And you can't even go to some libraries, some parks, places that are public places for fear in LA. This is true. that some homeless person is going to come along and pop you upside the head and snatch your wallet, or snatch your, you might be sitting out there having a sandwich. They might snatch that out of your hand because they're hungry. So it's gotten to the point of where people are violent when they're homeless, and we're experiencing that. And so not that long ago, a guy was downtown and he was walking, minding his own business, and a guy just from out of nowhere pushed him, and he was pinned under a looked like a truck. And so I don't know if you guys saw that, but the homeless is some people that are homeless are violent. And so you don't know which ones are going to just not be violent and which ones are going to be violent. And so that's why people don't feel comfortable giving any homeless people quarters and change. Now, some people still do. They brave it, they go ahead and do it. But there's some people that you don't know if they're yelling and cussing and screaming at you, the next thing you know, they'll pop you upside the head and snatch your wallet, or just push you or hurt you. And so a lot of women don't really want to fish in their purse to give money because they're afraid that if they're getting cussed out, they're not going to go in their wallet and give these people money. No. So it's saying like even like the libraries, the parks can be dangerous, the subways. So no matter where you live in LA County, in Long Beach, Beverly Hills, Lancaster, you cannot credibly claim today to be unaware of the squalid tent cities and sprawling encampments, or the despair and misery on display there. Because if you come to LA, you're going to see it somewhere, unless you go to places where you're avoiding it. But this is what you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of people from different walks of life that are homeless. Some people are not violent. They mind their own business and they're not bothering anybody. However, there are some people you'll encounter that are violent. And so actually this article was, I don't even know how to pronounce the guy's name. You can see it here. I'll just leave it here. It says, "You have not lived until you have done something for someone who can never repay you." So he wrote this article, and it's about homeless Los Angeles, United States, and poverty. So he does a lot of stuff about poverty, and I believe he probably writes books. And so I wanted to put this article to the forefront of this situation because it pretty much pinpoints these are the things that I have seen in LA. I don't know, have you? If you've been in LA, have you taken a trip downtown to some of these areas under the freeways, on the side of the freeways? And it's spread out. It's not even just in the Los Angeles area. It's in the Pasadena area. It's in areas of it's I'm sure it's in the Inland Empire. It's spread there. It's in all of it's starting to spread. And a lot of it has to do with, some of it has to do with people who, they may not be mentally ill, they may not have had really any substance problems, they just can't afford the rents. And so they're nearing eviction, and then they end up somehow in a circumstance, they might have lost their job. They end up in a situation like this, and it's sad. And some people are so cold, they turn their back on you when you try to look for resources or look for people to be a helpmeet. If you're trying to find other jobs, they don't help. They turn their back on you. They don't want to be of help. They don't want to help you find another job so that maybe you can hang on in there till things get better. Instead, they pretend like they don't know who you are and they don't want to help. They turn their back on you. It's all about themselves. As long as they have housing and as long as they have support, there are people that are like that. They only think about themselves. And that's the way this world seems like it's becoming. But to be angry at people who really, you don't know everybody's situation. You can only assume that some people might have been, cold to people, but you don't know. Um, What I think is dangerous is when people are loitering out in front of places and they're putting their hands all in their pocket and fishing around, and they're yelling and screaming at innocent people who they don't know. You don't know when that person's going to get set off and if they're going to hurt somebody or they're going to attack a person. Because, I don't know if you guys saw that, what happened to that guy that was attacked downtown. And so, there's a lot of articles about homeless man critical, um, homeless man critical after brutal attack in Palms. Homeless man attacks Good Samaritan. That's something that was on there. And man arrested in attacks. There's some people that attack the homeless, believe it or not. Suspect in LA, homeless attacks arrested. Um, search for a suspect who attacked three. Some people attack the homeless, but you have homeless people who also will attack people who aren't homeless or who, they assume that aren't in a situation as them. Homeless man, you know, they have homeless people that are stabbed. They're attacked and they're murdered. And a lot of this, let me tell you, some of this happens in the downtown area where there's drugs, because sometimes they're in areas where there's still drugs going on downtown. And it's crazy. Let me tell you a little bit about that. You'll see police, but there's so many homeless people and it's so dangerous down there. No cars parked down there. I don't know if you guys ever you wouldn't even want to drive down there because you're scared because you'll roll the windows up. That's when you know people are, it's like a whole nother world on Skid Row. You're afraid because you're thinking, oh my God, anything could happen down here. I could get beat up. They could puncture my tires. They could stab me and stuff like that. And so the people are down there, they're like really desperate. They're like at their last, they have nothing to lose. They've already lost everything. And so there's a lot of murder, there's death, there's killings. Some people will kill homeless people because they're fighting over things. If you've got something in your tent, that person doesn't have some food or doesn't have something, they're fighting over it. It's crazy. And so there's a lot of craziness. And so you do not want to be down there. And so some people are like just, there are other people that have mental illnesses and they may not be homeless, but they'll target sometimes homeless people. And so we even have stuff like that. And it's crazy. And so that's what it's like here in, some of those squalid conditions. And so it's like both. It's back and forth. It's like sometimes you feel attacked if you're up going to the store, you're not bothering anybody, and then you have some homeless person, they're following you. They act almost like they want to go in your purse. And so there's been situations like that. I don't know if okay, so this was, I don't know if you guys remember this incident that happened here where a guy was walking and the man was arrested because he pushed a guy under a truck, and this was in downtown LA. And it was really sad because the guy, he looked like he might have been homeless or on drugs or something. I couldn't tell, if he was, but he was sitting out there. It was crazy. I think he did have a mental issue. I don't know. But I think this clip will show to bring back to your memory about this situation right here. So after the commercial plays, it'll show the incident.
Long after our story first aired at 6 o'clock this evening, LA firefighters from Fire Station 9 spotted the suspect not very far from here. They said they followed him for a little bit, checking video from our story to make sure it was the right guy. And tonight they called police and he is in custody. Now we do have surveillance video of that attack to show you. The victim did survive, but we have to warn you, what happened to him, what you're about to see on video, is extremely disturbing. Surveillance video shows the suspect wearing a lime green jacket sitting in front of a restaurant in downtown Los Angeles around 10:45 in the morning. As the victim passes by, the suspect gets up, shoves him into the street. A truck runs over him.
Like, very upsetting. I was shocked.
The suspect walks off, leaving the man in the street. Witnesses say the victim appeared to be in his 60s. Bystanders help him to the sidewalk.
I felt so bad for him. I couldn't believe somebody can do that to a poor innocent guy just walking on the street.
Firefighters from LA Fire Department Station 9 respond. Police say the victim suffered broken bones and a collapsed lung. Less than an hour after our story aired, firefighters from the same station spotted someone matching the suspect description around 3rd and Hill.
It was definitely the bright neon rain jacket and the baggy pants and just the demeanor the guy had.
Captain Raymond Robles says they took another look at the video. His first thought?
About 100 different things. Was it the right person? It looks like it. Is it going to be hostile? So we followed him a couple blocks. We made notification to LAPD.
Shortly after, this tweet from LAPD: in custody. Earlier, ABC7 aired a clip of an individual pushing a passerby underneath a panel truck. Thanks to our partners at LAFD, he is now in custody.
I'm happy. I hope the gentleman that he did push has a speedy recovery, and for this individual that did push him, hopefully he can do a little soul searching, and what he did was wrong, and keep him off the street from hurting anybody else.
Now, police said the suspect was combative when he was arrested. He did not have ID on him. Witnesses say they believe he is homeless. Police say that he could face a charge of attempted murder. As for the victim, police say that he remains in critical condition.
Okay, so that's one incident, but I'm sure there's other incidences that have happened as well that involve other homeless people that can be very dangerous. And, you know, didn't you see in the video clip where the woman was passing and he kind of bucked up at her and she kind of moved over a little bit, but she kept walking? She could have been pushed, but she wasn't. He waited until this older guy, and they always target women and old people. I noticed that. It's always people that they know you can't fight back, or they assume you can't fight back. And so that's who they target, I notice. And so I'm just telling you that here in LA, downtown, and it can be all kinds of people, but I'm seeing a lot of homeless, and some of these homeless people are dangerous, and they will hurt you. You know, they will hurt you if you know, there was one guy who he would, as you were walking and you come to the stoplight and you're going to cross the street, he'd jump out at people and start cussing them and get in their face and yell and scream and shout. And he would start calling them names. He doesn't even know who you are. He doesn't know your name, who you are, never seen you. He'd just start shouting and screaming at people. He would scare people. He would jump out at people, and it would scare people almost out of their shoes. And so these are the kind of people that are either they're in the downtown or they're all spread out. You never know when you're going to encounter these people. And so I'm not saying this to like put people down, but, you know, just be careful when you're going to some of these areas and these neighborhoods that, you know, I feel like they have not gotten this homeless thing under control at all. And I think a lot of this wouldn't be the way it is or this out of control had they do something about the rents in these high-end cities. Is it fair to say that? High-end cities? Because the rents are like really high, and if they get control of some of that, maybe that will help in situations of the homeless population. The other thing is that there's these high rises in downtown LA, high rise apartments that nobody can afford, and they stay empty. So downtown has a high-rise apartment vacancy rate. Okay, so the rest of LA has, we've had issues with this. Okay, so the rest of LA should be so lucky, they claim. But there's these projects that are going on downtown. Now, I'm probably uncovering a little bit more than just the homeless issue, but it contributes, I believe, to some of this. For a city suffering from a housing crisis, the subject of real estate development has somewhat oddly become a wedge issue in LA, despite the constant refrain from economists that an increase in supply is key to solving the region's woes. Anti-growth advocates have countered that the bulk of the new projects charge rents that are unaffordable to the average Angelino, and therefore can't help end our problem. So nowhere has this debate played out more contentiously than downtown Los Angeles. So in 2016, backers of the Measure S, the failed bailout initiative that sought to curtail high-density development within LA's city limits, depicted downtown a poster child of overdevelopment with a growing collaboration of high-rise apartments and condo towers that cater to the wealthy or the super rich, while offering nothing for the working class, bolstering the anti-development argument that the real estate data firm CoStar revealed in September 2017 that the apartment vacancy rate downtown had reached 12.4%. So 3 times higher than the citywide average. This vacancy rate raised eyebrows even among growth advocates who recognize the need for more housing. So how can market rate apartments drive down rents when they're sitting empty? Could economists possibly be wrong about something so fundamental as supply and demand? So it says that downtown remains a relatively small pocket. It says, of course not. In the greater metropolitan region, so per CoStar, more than 1,600 apartments became available downtown in the first half of 2017. Approximately 7,000 additional units are scheduled to be at completion by late 2020 or through late 2020. Nevertheless, the Downtown Center Business Improvement District estimates that the neighborhood's population is just at 67,000. So as a result, the opening of a single 500-unit rental development is by itself capable of spiking the vacancy rate. So 12% means less than it seems. So, and the number has already come down. Last month, CoStar released a new data showing that the downtown vacancy rate dipped to about 10.3%. It dropped even further last week to about 8.1%. Rents, meanwhile, remain flat for the year, despite the average of 3.3% increase in LA County as a whole. Another data point: buildings that have been open for 1 year or more have thus had time to lease their units and have a vacancy rate of just 4.7%, roughly the same as citywide average. So downtown growth has created completion among landlords for residents. Prices have leveled according to the many property owners have resorted to incentives such as free parking, discount rent, in order to lure tenants. So in real estate circles, the general rule of thumb is the healthy vacancy rate of the commercial office space is approximately 10%. So in this scenario, prospective tenants have numerous options to choose from, but occupancy rates are still high enough that landlords can capitalize on their properties. So we need to achieve this type of equilibrium for the apartment market in Los Angeles, and we can't do it without increasing high housing supply. So that is without allowing developers to build enough to satisfy demand. So unfortunately, instead of ending the restrictive zoning laws that curtail construction, government officials typically call the new funding streams for affordable housing, and in some instances, the expansion of revival of policies such as rent control. Through the well-intentioned, most of these proposals are either stopgap measures or simply lack the scale to truly address the supply shortfall. So it talks about Measure HHH approved by the LA voters in 2016, calls for spending $1.2 billion to create 10,000 units permanent supportive housing over 10 years. Yet there are already more than 40,000 unsheltered homeless people living in LA County. The numbers don't match up, so the reticence of lawmakers to tackle zoning is understandable. Okay, development is unpopular at both ends of the income spectrum, so homeowners who tend to be older, wealthier, see dense multifamily construction as a threat to their quality of life. So renters, generally younger or less wealthy, see it as a harbinger of gentrification, or it's like gentrification and displacement. To move the poorer out or the families or working class people, legislators must ensure that development goes where it is needed, near job centers, major transit corridors. That means ambitious building not only downtown but in the west side and the county's largest employment center, and soon to be beneficiary of multi-billion-dollar rail lines. Downtown isn't a case study in what's wrong with development in LA. It's the best model we have for what is right. And so there's a lot of talk about this. Also, I don't know if you guys have witnessed that the LA City Hall is under FBI investigation for these issues of what is going on. They think that some money, that there's been bribery, extortion, and some other things that have gone on, and it has to do with some key players in the LA City Hall. So there's an issue that is going on down there where they feel like the Chinese companies who have pretty much came in and they have taken advantage of the high-rise development boom in the downtown of Los Angeles, that there might be some things going on with the people that are over the downtown of Los Angeles in terms of that building and development down there. Okay. So it is not a good situation, but FBI investigation looms over Democratic nominee Florida governor. That's something different, but let me see. There's so much stuff going on. Okay. All right. This is with FBI probe looming, LA City Council members revive plan to limit developer donations. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. LA City Council members under FBI investigation. LA City Hall as well. FBI corruption probe of LA City Hall focuses on downtown. And so this is a big thing. I don't know if you guys know that this is going on right now. Okay, so it says that there, I'm just going to go over it and then I'm going to end this video, but I feel like all this contributes to, it kind of, well, it's not kind of, it contributes to what's going on with this homelessness thing. It's greedy people who really want to profit, and they just think about themselves and building their luxury condos and high rises and making money, and they're rich, and screw those other people. attitude. So the rapid transformation of downtown LA skyline is being fueled in good measure by huge investments from Chinese companies eager to burnish their global brands and capitalize on LA's real estate boom. Now, some of those projects have been becoming the focus of the federal agents, which is the FBI seeking evidence to possibly of that what they feel has been going on, which is bribery, extortion, money laundering, other crimes as part of a corruption investigation at City Hall. So federal investigators have cast a wide net for information about foreign investment in LA real estate development, according to the search warrant that names an array of political and business figures. Among those named are executives of Chinese firms bankrolling to ambitious downtown projects that would result in 3 new towers on Figueroa Street. Investigators are also seeking records about LA development projects involving other foreign investigators, including firms with large-scale hotels, residential projects in downtown LA. So the warrant does not say that FBI has gathered evidence of criminal activity by any of the people or companies named in the document, but no one has been arrested yet or charged in the investigation. But the FBI, or a federal investigation, became public in November when FBI agents descended on the home and offices of LA City Council Jose Huizar, who represents the vast majority of downtown Los Angeles. Since then, the Times has reported that the investigators have sought records involving the longtime lobbyist and fundraiser close to City Hall. So warrants, which was filed in federal court in November but reviewed by the Times this week, sheds a new light of investigation and shows federal investigators are seeking records related to not only Hauser, but also the City Hall officials, including Councilman Curran Price and current or former aides Hauser, Council President Herb Wesson, and Mayor Eric Garcetti as well. So until recently, Hauser headed the powerful council committee that vets development projects. Price, in turn, heads a council committee focused on the economic development, which reviews taxpayer subsidies offered by the city to hotel developers in around downtown LA. The warrants is not only a sign of FBI interest in LA development, but the recent months, real estate developers with projects in the Hauser downtown Eagle Rock district have reviewed federal grand jury subpoenas, instructing them to turn over communications with the councilman and dozens of current and former Hauser staffers since 2013, according to 2 sources familiar with the FBI instructions. So those developers also have been told to provide information on any contributions they have made to Hauser, re-election bids, his office holder committee, and any legal defense fund, his alma mater, Bishop Mora Salesian High School. The sources said, so the subpoenas seek information on the donations made to 2 political committees with ties to Hauser's committee support PAC, which is PAC, Families for Better of Los Angeles. Developers in Hauser's district also have been instructed to provide information on any gifts, meals, trips, vacations, flights, events, trips, rounds of golf they have provided Hauser and his staff or any of the other council members, the source said. So these are like, you know, bribes or different things that people will do to try to get you to like smooth you over so they can go in and take over and do whatever projects they want to do. Of course, this is what they're investigating. Among the information sought, the warrant were records related to the trips that he had in Vegas, stays at 4-star hotels, including the Palazzo and Caesar's Palace. Documents does not explain why investigators want them. So depending on where it goes, FBI investigation could spur Angelenos to demand reforms of real estate development and campaign contribution gifts. A City Hall Cathay Finn, who was until recently head of California Common Cause, a watchdog group that monitors ethics and money in politics. People already have a level of skepticism about how City Hall decisions are made around major development projects, she said. So, in the Warren agents sought information from Google about the Gmail account tied to Ray Chan, a former deputy mayor for economic development for Garcetti, who once headed the city building department and has worked since then as a consultant. Agents said that they were looking for evidence related to an investigation into bribery, extortion, money laundering, and other crimes that could involve more than a dozen people. So among those that were named were 2 executives linked to Shenzhen, a New World Group, a Chinese company that has unveiled plans to redevelop LA Grand Hotel downtown, 77-story tower building, to build a 31-story hotel near Universal Studios. So the Times was unable to reach Wen Hong, president of Zhen New World Group. So Ricky Zhen, who was identified in the state campaign contribution records as Zhen New World LLC executive, besides evidence of any possible crimes involving 2 men, federal warrant sought records relating to Zhen New World Group and 2 of its hotels. So the warrant first reported that George Washington University counterterrorism experts C. Mus Hughes also named Fur Yan, founder of another company called Shenzhen Hazen. In 2017, the city council approved a Shenzhen Hazen project on Figueroa Street, allowing the developers to demolish a 9-story Lux City Center hotel and replace it with 2 skyscrapers, one for a hotel and the other as condominiums. So as part of the approval process, the developers, an agreement to the contribute to the initiatives long backed by Hauser, including $750,000 to support a planned downtown streetcar, $550,000 to the effort to revitalize the Broadway corridor. So investigators asked the Warren about the Lux Hotel, the George Xiang, and George Xiang is his name, who city records indicate was involved with the skyscraper project. So David Chiatkin, see all these foreign names and stuff like that, a company attorney who told that the Times that Shenzhen Hazen was unable to share any information about the activities of the investigation. And so here is, it says FBI corruption probe goes beyond LA Councilman Jose Hauser to include other City Hall figures. And this is him pictured here to the left. So the warrant said the investigator sought evidence of possible crimes involving City Hall figures in addition to Hauser, including his planning deputy, Sean Cook, and his former aide, George Esparza, Price, Daron Williams, chief of staff to Wesson, Joel Jacinto. So all these names and Garcetti appointees who serve on the City Board of Public Works, Chan himself, Garcetti spokesman, Alex Commissar, declined to comment. See, they don't even want to talk on Jacinto and Chan. He said no one in the mayor's office has received a federal subpoena or less formal request for information from the FBI. So Esparza said that the email he had left Hauser's office a year ago because he was profoundly uncomfortable with some of Hauser's practices and conduct. Hauser's special assistant, as his assistant I was in one of the best positions to see how the council members wielded his political power in ways in which, while he apparently had normalized, I did not feel aligned with how I wanted to live my political and personal life, wrote Esparza, so who now works as the chief of staff to Assemblywoman Wendy Carrillo, Democrat of Los Angeles. So all of this ties into this, you guys. This article, it goes on and on and on and on about this whole thing. Actually, it's almost done, but I read it to almost its entirety. So it says, so I got out before I could become collateral damage, he continued, and I took steps to protect myself. And so now I work for someone that does it the right way. You hear that? Does it the right way. So there's a lot of corruption going on in some of those areas of downtown Los Angeles, the people that are running things. Esparza did not directly answer the question from the Times about whether he observed or participated in any unlawful acts. So attorneys for Hauser, he has focused on serving his constituents but did not address the content of the warrant. Cook, who handles development issues for Hauser, declined to comment. Prince Jacinto said that they are unaware of the warrant when contacted by the Times on Saturday. And Ed Johnson, Assistant Chief Deputy to Wesson, said that Sunday that federal investigators had not contacted their office about any of this. Chan, former Garcetti deputy, declined to comment. All of them don't want to talk. In November about whether he had received a subpoena. At the time, he had said that he was a consultant working for CCC Investment Group, a company that listed George Sheehan as the executive director in the state filing. Sheehan had no comment, referring to the questions in his lawyer, and Chan did not respond to the messages left by the Times. So investigators are also asked if the warrant for any records of the Gmail account related to the projects with foreign investors, including Hazens, Oceanwide, and Greenland. Greenland is developing a metropolis project downtown along the 110 freeway. More than 4 years ago, Hauser and the rest of the city council voted to grant as $18.7 million in financial aid to the Hotel Indigo, which is a part of the project. So Oceanwide is developing 2 towers across the Staples Center, and it would include hundreds of condominiums. Okay, so this is for wealthy people, you guys. A Park Hyatt Hotel warrant sought records for projects that Hauser and his staff and others named individuals helped to get the city permits or other approval, as well as records of fundraising and campaigns for other causes. Okay, how does this tie into homeless black men? Okay, homeless black people, homeless black men. That's where a lot of this anger is coming from. People who have lost everything and they have no power to say so, no one representing them. They get angry and then they take it out on innocent people. And this is bigger than you know, folks. There's a lot going on. It's not just to one group of people. You can't blame women for this. You can't blame black women for this. You can't say, oh, it's her fault. And so I'm going to take all my anger out on this woman, who's this poor woman that's shopping for groceries, and vent at her because I have no place to live and no one wants to take me in. There's a lot going on with a lot of people in the world, y'all. So you can't take your anger out on an individual simply because something happened to you, to say that, oh, you made me homeless. Unless you're angry at your employer because they fired you, or you're angry because somebody lied on you at work and got you fired, or they contributed to you losing a job or losing an opportunity to get another job, then I can see you going to that individual. But people that are on the street that you have no knowledge about, to just start shouting and screaming at them, and you don't know who they are, is wrong. That's what I'm saying. And so I know this went into like several different facets of, it extended it. It's not just looking at the homeless people per se, saying that, oh, wow, it's just one group, but it has spread. It has spread to many places now. And this is really sad, because now you see that this thing has gotten so far out of control that I'm trying to get rid of that. So it's everywhere. Do you see this? If you drive in LA, this is what you're going to see, y'all. It's everywhere. So it's, there's also the dangers in being around these people. You don't know if they're violent. You don't know if they're going to hurt you. And there's that fear surrounded by all of this. And so, too, on top of that, the disrespect. There's a lot of disrespect, too. And some of these situations, I'm going to be honest, I feel like some of these guys, maybe they were in relationships and it didn't work out, and so they're angry at women. And if it's a woman that looks like or reminds them of a woman they were with, they take it out on her. They want to vent on her and say, it's your fault. You're the reason why I'm out here on the street begging. You're in a better position than me. I'm supposed to be over you and controlling you. And so you can't take it out and be disrespectful to people. You don't know what their situation is like. But anyway, I'm going to end this video, but it's sad. I'm seeing a lot of homeless black men. I'm seeing a lot of homeless black men. I'm seeing a lot of homeless black people. I'm seeing a lot of homeless people in LA. And so I'm probably going to add to that title, just to extend it, to say that I've added some other things to this, because this is a huge problem here in Los Angeles. And so I believe there's a lot of corruption behind a lot of this. And so that's why I brought out all the issues with the downtown development, because they're under FBI investigation, because they're building like for the super rich. So anyway, any one of us could be in this situation. But with that being said, I'm going to let this video go, and thanks for listening.